Welcome to another episode of Health Your Way podcast, where we discuss health issues ranging from physical, mental, emotional, as well as current facts. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about how body positivity coach can guide you to self-love when dealing with negative body issues. Please allow me to introduce my guest, Kate Huffman. She's an award-winning actor and a writer, as well as a certified body positivity coach and a speaker who's willing to offer us today tangible tools to deal with body hatred and self-loathing. So welcome, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anything you want to add to your impressive resume, or are we?
No, I think you've covered it. It's about it.
I appreciate that. We're wearing the same hat. Look at that.
I love it. I rock a lot of hats, and I love that. Before we started recording, I inspired the host to go, I'm going to go get my hat too. Now it's the fedora episode. I love it.
I like it. Okay, before we go further, explain to me, because I am, for lack of a better choice of word, ignorant. What is a body positivity coach?
Oh, sure. So I work with people who have struggled with their body image and have been on years of dieting, restriction, exercise programs to success or non-success, quote unquote success, in terms of people whose lives are significantly restricted because of years of following these rules and having that affect other areas of your lives, to people who, because the vast majority of the time diets are not going to work, dwell in this sense of shame and that cycle of yo-yo dieting. Whatever it is, anyone whose lives have been unfairly occupied by this world of just obsessive diet, exercise, body hatred, shame, guilt, all that. Those are the people I work with in order to reclaim the energy that we pour into those things and put it back into the things that we were actually meant to do here on this planet, which was not obsessively diet. That was not, none of us were put here to do that.
I like that, because honestly, I see it as I see some, like, as a fitness professional, I see people that, they've done yo-yo dieting, but I think the first thing they have to do is love who they are. And I think that's what you offer. And then once you love who you are and what you said, then you can achieve the other goals, because you're loving yourself and you want better for yourself. So in a sense, you guys, I think most people need to maybe see somebody like you. And we tend to I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
And I think the reason why I say this, because I find that as a fitness professional, we're not equipped to help somebody self-love. We're here just to basically teach you, but some of us have to take that hat on. Take that hat off. So it's really nice, that you offer this service. And to segue to our conversation today, and we're talking about negative body issues, for example, and body dysmorphia. For viewers that are not aware of it, what is considered negative? I know you mentioned it, but let's go a little more deeper. And what is dysmorphia? Like, what is considered negative body issue and dysmorphia in a sense?
Yeah. So body dysmorphia, body dysmorphic disorder is a clinical diagnosis of having an awareness and obsession about a certain flaw in one's physical appearance that becomes oppressive and obsessive and disrupts your ability to get through life because you think so much about this flaw and want to correct it. So it's categorized as a kind of OCD. And it can be, the diagnosis can apply to things beyond the size or shape of one's body. It can apply to a perceived flaw on your face that other people don't see. Other people don't perceive it, but someone's obsessed with this thing on their face and they can't get through a day without picking at it or thinking about it or looking at plastic surgery about it. And
I was going to say that. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Sure, the plastic surgery part. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So that's the bigger umbrella. What it most commonly manifests as is obsessive thinking about one's body shape and size. So it most often applies to thinking that the shape of your body is too big, or it's the precursor to eating disorders. And it may not get to a point where anyone goes to see a psychiatrist about this and get that clinical diagnosis, because when it comes to that, it's so normalized in our society to think that you have a horrible body and to be obsessed with changing its shape in some way. Dieting is dieting is a normalized thing in our society. And that's why I think that specific category of body dysmorphia is woefully underdiagnosed. And many people who just think that they're very normal and hate their body all day long and think about it all day long and how awful their body is, don't realize that that's not normal, and they don't deserve to feel that way about themselves.
I'm hurting because when you're saying that, I can remember myself when I was younger, not liking a certain part of my body and thinking, because you're comparing yourself with other people, right?
Completely.
And then everybody's not built the same, right?
No,
then
they are not.
yes, no, and then you forget that because in the media or so, you see the same type of body type, and you're just like, well, why can't I look like that? And then that explains why there's such a huge rise in plastic surgery. It's like either people are trying to grow a certain size, upwards or lowerward, or shrink a certain size, or you see people literally changing the whole entire face.
Yeah.
And when you said the fact that a lot of people don't realize that they have this because it's been normalized, that was just like a big point for me. I think I've met people, and I think if I have to be fair and be honest, I think I may have that kind of issue because you never know, right? Like, and I'm thinking, you're obsessing about this a lot, but Kate's saying one thing, you're like, maybe you have that, but to a certain extent. But I'm self-aware, but you're right. Like I didn't think that.
And it's a dysmorphic understanding of what our own bodies appear. And what you're saying is exactly correct. We are shown one body shape from the time that we're tiny, the thin ideal. We're shown that is normal, that is beautiful, that is valuable, and that we must have that. And when we don't, that's a flaw. And then, hello, here are all the products you can give us money for to help you get there. It's a very, like they thrive very much on our insecurities, right? That's the whole beauty industry. It's here are your flaws that you didn't know you had, but here we go. We have the solutions. Please pay us and we'll offer you these solutions. So because we're given that, like from the time that our brains are forming, many women, but men as well, grow up with a deeply wired understanding in our brains that body shape has value and ours is not matching that. So ours is not valuable and we must do whatever we can to get it to that point. When it's ridiculous, because as you just said, human body shapes are as varied as trees. That's what I always like to say. We love and celebrate the different shapes of trees, but we do not do that for human bodies.
Even now, to even go deeper, we're looking at some standardized view of what beauty looks like. Not to be, but Caucasian looking, blonde, blue eyes. Yes. Then you see a lot of POCs, person of colors, bleaching their skin, right? Yes. Or the opposite of Caucasian women or men itself getting tan or getting darker because they want to look a certain type of look, right?
Yep.
And to add, even I've heard some, I'm not sure if I don't want to shoot my mouth, thinking people from the Eastern or Eastern side, like in maybe Japanese, or they do their eyes to have a certain lids. Yeah. So I think, is it fair to say, as I think you may agree, that society has a huge implication of what affects our negative views of our body.
Yes. And what you're saying is exactly correct. And that's one of the things that I go into. I teach group courses on this stuff. And we spend some time looking at the origins of why we walk around with this messaging. We don't know the things that we've internalized. We don't know the forces behind them. One of them being that, beauty standards today have their roots in white supremacy completely. That was the powerful source of, that was the power, and they were able to say looking like this race is more beautiful than other races. And yes, exactly what you're saying, skin bleaching, eyelid correction, it's hugely popular. And I think even the Miss America pageant used to have it written into the rules for a long time, must be of white race and thin. I mean, crazy. I think
also maybe height restrictions, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there were height restrictions, to be honest, but I know that those words were in there. And so that's that. So that that's like looking at this moment where we are in history, where we're realizing the influence of white supremacy everywhere. But we have to acknowledge that and remind ourselves, if we're trying so hard to achieve this thin ideal, like one extra thing to help us let that go is to, wait a second, it does not have exactly admirable roots. But it's fashion, it's arbitrary. I mean, we look at body types, the body standards, the ideal body over the course of the years, over the course of history, it changes as arbitrarily as fashion. So we believe that it has always been the thin ideal, or where we are today, the toned, thigh, like whatever version of it is, you can just look across history and realize, oh no, that has just been changing with the times. There's always one powerful, dominant, usually like one specific dominant woman who sort of changes the landscape of what now all of a sudden everybody has to try to look like. And the fact
I get what you're saying.
We should celebrate every size and shape. Yeah, sorry.
No. I was wondering, like, I think women deal with it more than men. I know some men do. There's some men that, you know, they have to have, if you don't have the muscles, if you don't look manly enough, that affects your negative body issues of yourself. And then for women, I think because we're so sexualized to a certain extent, and we're considered like feminine beauty, if we don't resemble what is on the screen or in the magazines, we don't attract the mate that we're looking for. I think, is that fair to say?
Yes, I agree very much. I do think it is much more prominent for women, though men do experience body dysmorphia very much so. And yes, it's usually about the toned, muscular stance.
Or looking like a masculine, look like a man instead of a feminine look. Yeah.
Because we get messages from the time we're tiny too about gender, about what it is to be male or female, just starting with pink or blue clothes. Like, those are the options. Like, your gender is defined for you so arbitrarily, so young. And it goes on from there with that kind of messaging. The other thing with society now, that we have this image in our heads of the thin ideal. But today it's not even a human shape. It'd be one thing if we're all just trying to look like this one type of body shape, one and only one. That's what we're supposed to get all of our bodies to look like, that one shape. But today that shape is not even human because of digital enhancements.
Photoshop and everything. Yes.
It's extreme, and they elongate waists, they pull down thighs, they'll make a neck longer, they'll smooth out. I mean, it's so very much. And so we look at all of these images and think we're supposed to look like that, and we'll spiral down in that body comparison place that so many of us can go. And it's so unreasonable. It's so unfair to us. It's like, you got to ask yourself, is that reasonable? Is that even a reasonable thing for me to imagine trying to look like that? And the answer is no, because it's basically a cartoon.
I don't think a lot of people know that. I think I know, and I think that's really scary. And just as a body positive coach, right? How do you address that with your clients? How do you help them transition from that negative body image to starting to love themselves and accept who they are?
Yeah. So the way I work is through thought work.
Okay.
Which is, you have to start with this concept, this truth, that our thoughts are not facts.
Okay.
Our thoughts and beliefs are not universal truths, like the earth is round. That's a fact, okay? I mean, I know there are people who believe it's flat, but the earth is round. And that's a thing we can prove. Our thoughts that run so quickly through our heads are not facts, but we believe them. So for instance, I have a terrible body, right? My body is too fat to date anyone. I'm too fat to go date anyone, for instance. Fat is bad. That even that in itself is a thought, right? Not a truth. So let's just go with that one. We have that thought. That's not a fact, even though you may have thought it so many times that it feels like a truth to you, and you will state it to people as a truth. I can't date anyone until I lose weight. And you just state it as a truth, and it feels that way, and we internalize it that way. But the only circumstance there, so there are circumstances. That's the top layer of what exists. And the circumstance is simply, I am this size and I want to date. Those are two facts. Yes. I am this weight. Okay. That's pretty much it. Okay. Your thought about it was, I can't date anyone at this weight.
Okay.
But all thoughts are equally true right there. You could choose any thought. I'm the perfect size to date. All shapes and sizes deserve love. All humans deserve love. All of those thoughts right there are available to us.
True.
Whichever thought our brains are programmed to move really quickly to the thought that it's used to thinking, because that's what brains do. They're very good at making those neural networks connect at lightning speeds. So we go simply to, like, maybe I step on the scale, I'm too fat to date anyone, period. Like, that happens just like that, right? So the thought work is to slow that down, analyze each thought through a series of thought work tools to determine whether or not that's a useful thought for you, if that's helping you to get through your day. Because below the thoughts instill a feeling, the feelings instill the actions instill the results, and often the results create evidence to prove our first thought true.
Understood.
So let's say I can't date anyone until I lose weight. That makes you feel depressed. That's the feeling. That makes you, the action might be you emotionally eat, sit on the couch and emotionally eat and feel bad. Then you gain more weight, and that's the result. And that result proves the first one.
Feeling, yeah.
I don't deserve to date anyone, right? So it's that cycle. So it's that first step we have to get to, of getting from the circumstance to a new thought.
I think you're talking to me right now, Kate. Talk to me, Kate. Talk to me.
I'm talking to all of us.
I know.
It's
I say it because I can relate to what you're saying. That's why I'm like, Kate, talk to me. But you're talking to everybody. I hear you, Kate. Go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
Okay. So the first thing to do is to be monitoring those thoughts and to recognize that voice in our head for what it is, which is, this is not a source of truths. And once we start identifying those thoughts, making note of them, and applying various tools to them. So my favorite are called the Big Five.
Okay.
So you'd find the thought. Let's just stick with that thought. I can't date anyone till I lose weight. And then you go through this series of questions. Would I say this to someone else? Would I want someone else to say this to me? What would I want them to say instead? Why would someone say this to me? And what could I have thought instead? So question 1, would you ever say that to someone else? You really shouldn't date anyone until you lose weight.
Me personally, no. Other people may, but me personally,
other people might, but usually for most people, thought number 1 is an easy no.
Yeah.
We just normally would not say the things we say to ourselves to others. It's usually an easy no.
Yes, 100%.
Yes. Now, if that in itself is enough for you to realize, well, I'm a person too, so if no one else deserves to hear that, I shouldn't say it to myself either, then great, go, move on. Don't ever think that to yourself again. But we often need more, because sometimes we seem to have this exception that we can be meaner to ourselves than others, which is something we absolutely, when working with me, have to get away from, because you are just as much a human as anyone else and deserve just as much respect. But number 1, would I say it to someone else? Usually an easy no. So number 2, how would I feel if someone said it to me? So how would I feel if someone said, you can't date anyone until you lose weight? Sort of hits you differently, It's sort of like, excuse me?
I just slapped the person over
Exactly. Exactly. It sort of makes you a little bit like a little defensive of yourself. You kind of stand up for yourself for a second, which is good.
Slap the person already. I'm sorry, but I would slap the person already.
Okay. I love that.
Please.
But it's just another way to realize, okay, so if that's how that would make me feel, that means it's not an appropriate thought, and I need to do some work on this thought. So then number 3, what would I wish that they would say instead about that particular topic? Everybody deserves love. You're crazy. You're perfect to get out there. All humans deserve love. Maybe you'd want them to say you look great. You look amazing. Anybody would be lucky to have you. Any of these things, right? Whatever you might land on there, what would you prefer them to say to you? So we have that sitting there as like a possible alternative thought, but I'll get to why we keep going in a second. Number 4 is, why would someone have said that to me? And number 4 is really, really important, because we have to remember that it was actually us who said it. So we have to find some empathy and understanding for that voice. because it doesn't help us to just cuss out that voice because it was us. So that's just a circle of self-hate. So why would somebody say that? Why would someone say you really shouldn't date anybody until you lose weight? And the answer is usually because they were also raised in this world where we have been taught to associate certain body sizes with value and other body sizes with worthlessness, with laziness, with like all the bad qualities. We live in a very fat phobic society, and it's just like we sling so much negativity on anything other than the one perfect body shape, right? So it's quite possible that someone's trying to help us from their unfortunately misinformed perspective. They're trying to protect you, to help you, whatever it is, right? And so when we understand that, when we can get to that point and realize like, now why would I even think that to myself? Because again, it came from us. Oh, that's right. Okay. Yes. Because look at the world around me. That's what I've been taught. So of course I'm going to think that. Good to know. I understand that you were coming from a good place, but you've actually been misinformed. So no, thank you. Thanks for your input. I'm going to go ahead and move past it. Does that make sense?
100%. 100%. Like you're talking to me like a few years ago, and I think you're talking to me right now too. But go ahead, please. Like I'm really
Sure.
learning a lot. Yeah.
So then number 5 is what could I have thought instead? And sometimes that links right back to number 3. And number 3 was simply, you're in the perfect shape to go date. Get out on the dating market. So sometimes it's just that, but other times it's not, because it doesn't resonate with us as true. If we've been in this self-loathing place for so long, if we then try to go from the next time we have that thought, you got to lose weight before you can date. No, you look amazing, get out there. And that doesn't resonate as true for you. Then you're going to be like, this is garbage. No, that is not true. I do not look amazing. I'm out of here. And you'll throw all the work away, right? So if you can get to that place, great. That's what you need to do. You need to try to get from that thought to the next, to the preferred thought. But most of the time we have to get to a neutral thought, which is usually something more like, all bodies deserve love, or all humans deserve love. All humans deserve love. You have a human body, and humans deserve love.
It's true.
Just something that will resonate, because your brain can't really argue with a neutral thought. So for instance, if we had started with, I have the worst thighs. My thighs are awful. The ultimate thought might just be, I have human thighs.
I see.
Yeah, because your brain can't argue with that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I have human thighs. Great. And then you just move on, you move on with your day. Because otherwise we'll sit there all day thinking about our awful thighs. And we're not focused on the people around us. We're not focused on the work we want to get done that day. We're just thinking about those thighs and letting it control the rest of our day, and letting that feeling of worthlessness and shame grow and grow and grow, versus just being like, wait, these are human thighs. That's right, because I'm a human. Okay, great. I'm going to take my human thighs and get on with my day.
I am honestly so sobered right now, because I see that from other people, like what you said. And I know I've experienced what you said in respects to self-loathing to myself. And, I am also struggling with certain body issues of mine, coming from the whole COVID-19, the whole 50, like, it's been really hard.
It has.
Yeah. And you have to understand, as a fitness competitor, we go through a certain type of body back and forth. Yeah. So it's not only like, it's really hard to see yourself a certain way and then see what your body looks like. And then you have to learn to realize that you're a human. Everybody's different, and you're not going to look a certain way all the time, but you have to respect yourself at that point of time where you are. And
that's wonderful.
Yeah, like that's why I'm very sober right now, because I'm just listening to what you're saying, and I'm going through and I have somebody in my life that tells me, no, you look beautiful, and I want to slap the person, because I'm like, stop telling me this. But then when you tell me,
because it doesn't resonate with you.
Yeah, right. So the fact that you laid out the whole 5, and when you said, someone ever told me that I would slap them, I'm like, so you basically gonna slap yourself because you kind of people talk to themselves like that.
They do.
Like, you look fat in that dress, or do you not? Yeah. Sorry. So I'm a little sobered.
I'm so glad. I'm glad it's resonating with you. And that's a tough place. I'm very impressed with what you just said about being in a fitness competitor and being able to at least be aware that you need to have that respect for wherever your body is in the moment.
Yeah.
Because bodies change. That's what they're meant to do. And they will always change. They will continue to change. And we cannot control that change. You know, I know that as a fitness competitor, there are things that you do to get, you know, I know that, but
Yes.
On the whole, as we age, as we go, we have to be at peace with wherever our body's going to go, because that is not in our control.
It's true. And for a lot of people, if you're watching or listening, it's really hard to understand that your certain body shape is not maintainable. And then a lot of people see them on magazines or see them on social media or see the fitness models or fitness men. Those are not sustainable looks. They're not.
No.
And it takes a lot of, you're sacrificing a lot.
Yes.
You're sacrificing a lot
Yes.
of time, you're sacrificing a lot. And even then going from there and finding a balance for yourself that you're not self-loading is hard. Everybody struggles with it. I struggle with it. I know for other fitness competitors or personal trainers struggle with it. So when you say that, I think it's really good that you offer those 5 steps.
Yeah.
And I think it's really neat. Thank you for sharing that. And interesting fact about you is that people may not know that you received an award for a solo show called I'm Too Fat for This Show.
Yes.
And the reason why I'm bringing this up is I think it kind of, resonates with what we're talking about. And I really wanted to get your reasoning why you actually created that show per se. So please.
Yes. So as you said up top, I'm an actor.
Before you go on, congratulations. 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 Go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm an actor and a writer. I have been in Los Angeles the past 15 years. And at a certain point in 2014, I was trying to make some meaning out of my life because I had been on and off anorexic, and I had chronic pain from an exercise addiction, and had witnessed 20 years of eating disorders and body dysmorphic thinking and behavior. I had witnessed it destroy every area of my life, essentially. Love life, friendships, health, unquestionably health, and my career, because of so much time and energy put into that obsession that, it's like I told myself I was doing it for my career, but when all of your life is dedicated, like when that has to come first, then I don't have any energy left to properly be networking or writing or whatever it may be. So all areas of my life had been suffering because of this thing that had been dominating my life for so long. And the only thing that I came up with to make any meaning out of what at that point I was like, this is just, I've wasted my whole life, was to tell my story. So, because I'm an actor, I wanted to try to be of service in that way. I've always wanted to be of service through art. I thought maybe all I can do is tell my story, see if it's of service to anybody. I didn't know if it would be, no idea. I wrote for 2 years. I wanted it to be a comedy because I'm a comedian, and I didn't see anything out there about eating disorders that made sense to me, that I thought was effectively communicating my experience. And I thought that all these very dramatic things were just kind of pushing people away from understanding and being like, yeah, I don't know, that's a sad scenario. Too bad for those people. As opposed to when you break it down a little bit with humor and present it from this perspective that I was presenting it, what wound up happening when I finally did the show was that people were blown away in that they could relate to this scenario regardless of whether or not they ever had an eating disorder. Okay. They related, like men with no eating problems were like, oh I thought you were describing my inner dialogue. Do you know what I mean? And then people who did see themselves in the story were also enormously grateful. So it was the scariest thing in my life that week, because this was shameful stuff that I never shared with anyone. My closest friends didn't know, but I put it up for one weekend in 2016 in Sherman Oaks, California. And the response was enough for me to know I had to keep going with it. And from there, I did several festivals, won awards, toured the US, got to go abroad with it. It has been a huge, huge, wonderful, life-changing experience. And because of this show, doing the show is the only reason that I am now in this line of work, because after a while, enough people were coming up to me after the show or in talkbacks and asking me how they could heal themselves, how they could help their nieces or their cousins or whomever. And I didn't have answers for them because I was still living it as I told the story. It wasn't a victory show. It wasn't then the eating disorder died and I thrived. Nope, that was not the story. So after a while, that really started to sit with me, and I realized I'm not going to be able to keep this up. If this is it suddenly became my brand that I was the eating disorder storyteller, but I couldn't let it end there. I really, in the show, presented this notion. So I talk about the ages of 12 to our mid 20s, get this forming. So at the end of it, I basically was like, when we're 12, our brain is thirsty for messages, and the messages we receive is that some foods are good, some foods are bad, dieting is morality, weight loss is celebrated, you have to have this body, fat is bad, thin is good, all these messaging that goes on and on and on and gets programmed to just run in the background now of our brain as we go into adulthood, right? And our brain does that as a favor.
Yes.
Think about it, when you're learning to drive, we have to think about it until our brain has just made it happen in the background. And then we are chilling while we drive and listening to a podcast or whatever, right? But unfortunately, in that circumstance, it has programmed falsehoods into running in the background. And they're running automatically. So basically, I go into all of that, and at the end of it, I'm like, so we're all screwed. It's too late. It's too late for us. Our brains are programmed. We're screwed. So what can we do? I don't know. And that's when I dove deep into doing the thought work and meditation and mindfulness and body acceptance work. Thankfully, I was like, I was wrong. I was so wrong. Our brains have neuroplasticity until the day we die. We can reprogram them. It takes work, but we can do it. And from there, I went in, I got my body positivity certification, my life coach certification, and I started teaching online courses about it and taking one-on-one clients, and that's where I am today. And it feels like the universe guided me here. I've never felt so in alignment with my purpose on the planet. Like, the whole journey makes sense now. And
that's good, because you have to go through that to find your purpose and you feel like you're making a difference. And I guess if people are listening to you and I'm listening to you and they're resonating what you're saying, and they should, because everybody at one point have had body negative issues. What's the best social media platform for us to reach out to you?
Sure. I'm on Instagram at Kate Huffwoman. Okay. So you can follow me there. And I have a lot of body positivity stuff on my Insta. I also have a free Facebook group for anyone who wants to find more resources and tools and a community of people on this journey. And that is Body Positivity for People with Bodies. So you're welcome to join that Facebook group. I'm live in there a lot, giving some more thoughts and tools. So those would be two great ways to follow me. And if you want to work with me in any capacity, katehuffman.com/workshops is where my services are laid out. Yeah.
And I guess when reaching out to you, because I feel like you're very passionate about this, and you've gone through your own transformation. For the audience itself, what sets you apart from others that are body positive coach?
Yeah, I believe that the fact that I declared publicly in many, many cities that we're all just kind of stuck like this.
Yeah.
And now can definitively say, nope, I was wrong. We are not. Yeah. I love my body. I am happy to be in my body. I can live at peace with my body. It may not seem like that's that astounding. Like, you might look at my body and think, yeah, fine, she's fine, whatever. But if my life was spent in such a deeply entrenched trap of self-loathing and body hatred, that for me to be able to say that I can do this work, anybody can really do this work. So if you're also in a place where, I've tried for years, I've tried to set myself free of this, I'm never going to change my thinking, I've been in years of therapy about it, all of these things, that's my story. And I can offer tools that you will not have been exposed to elsewhere.
And that's, yeah. Because I see it, like you can tell, I can see it, you can hear it in your voice, and you can hear it in your stories that you mentioned. So it's more like, I'm real. I'm not here to give you a speech. I'm coming from experience, and I know what it took to get there, and I can show you and I help you guide because I can relate.
Yes.
And I get that from you. I really want to say, we started off high. I'm so sober, as you can see right now, because not in a bad way. It's just I've learned so much. And I think I didn't expect to learn so much about myself in respect to how I see myself. And I want to say thank you for that. I want to say thank you for reaching out to me. This is been one of the best episodes I've had in a long, long time. And it's been a pleasure.
It has.
Hats off to you. And I want to say thank you for being part of this with me. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It was a wonderful interview.
Thank you for joining us today on our weekly episode of Health Your Way podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share with others, and please feel free to comment below and ask any questions on topics we discussed, as well as future topics you'd like to hear about. Have a happy and healthy week, and be sure to tune in next week for the next episode on a Health Your Way podcast.